To celebrate getting 25,000 subscribers on Classy Whale, we're traveling internationally to the United States. For the record, I'm in Vancouver.
Just south of Vancouver, Canada, there is a tiny peninsula called Point Roberts that belongs to the United States, the result of a historic border determination that didn't realize it was there. The US-Canada border was drawn at the 49th parallel, and this tiny bit of land extended just south of that, so it became part of Washington state, despite only being accessible by land from Canada. If you're the type of person who watches this channel, you've probably heard of it. But can you get there with Vancouver's stellar transit network? The only way to find out is to go for a ride.
Of course, we have to start the day with that most Canadian of institutions, Tim Hortons. I got the farmer's breakfast with chipotle sauce, and Josh got
sausage and egg. I'm a simple man.
Also, who are you?
I'm Josh from Josh Does Travel, the, resident Canadian on Classy Whale now.
All right, breakfast has been had. We're walking across the street to the nearest SkyTrain station to get our bus passes for the day. Also, cherry blossoms. So one thing I really love about the station is just how integrated it is into its surroundings. You have the park behind us, like so. You have the ticket machines kind of spaced apart to prevent crowding. We have an Amazon locker, we have exits to different buildings, and the entrance to the SkyTrain back there. I have seen like 2 blocks of Vancouver so far, and so far I'm really liking it. So next, because Point Roberts itself does not have a transit network, we do need to get some bicycles. And to find our way to the bike shop, I have this. So I'm just gonna walk in the direction that it points.
Let's say, hopefully it guides you in the right way.
I think this is north. All right, so clearly the compass card does not actually function as a compass, but we are back up on the street, and as you can see above the street, there are electric wires, which can mean we can only be taking one thing.
A hovercraft!
No, we're riding a trolley bus, which is actually 2 words here in Canada.
A trolley bus.
Vancouver has run trolley buses since 1948, and today they're the only Canadian city to have them, with 16 routes totaling 195 miles and the second largest trolley bus fleet between the US and Canada. We step off after several blocks to find a street that's pretty much entirely bike rentals and ramen shops.
This sounds crazy, but I just want to put it out there. I think people here like riding bikes.
We head into one of the stores for our bikes.
Update, bike has been acquired, so let's take a ride down to the SkyTrain.
And what a ride this is! We cruise along Vancouver Harbor, complete with dense development and colorful cherry trees.
So we had to stop and take a look at this. There's apparently a Chevron station in the middle of Vancouver Harbor, as you can see.
Then we reach Waterfront Station and head downstairs to the Canada Line. This is the newest of Vancouver's 3 SkyTrain lines, and we'll be riding it south to Bridgeport, a major transfer hub. We jump on board, completely missing that there are dedicated bike spaces in the middle of the 2-car train.
So here's our setup for our journey to Bridgeport. We've got this giant pole in the middle, and then we kind of wedge the bikes into the pole, and hopefully that holds.
Thankfully it's not rush hour.
Again, we sincerely apologize to our fellow commuters. There's literally bike storage right back here.
So something very interesting I noticed here on the SkyTrain is that every single window has a little strip. It's like a stop request strip for a bus, but it's a silent alarm. So that, if there's any kind of crisis, you hit that thing.
Soon we emerge above ground, passing tons of apartment towers and flying over the Fraser River's North Fork, before jumping off at Bridgeport Station, which is close to the Vancouver airport.
One very, very cool thing that they have here, that they also have the SEPTA Accessible Travel Center when I was there, is a demo bike rack. Because it can be very stressful to load a bike on a bus, perhaps in the middle of a busy road, so they actually have a whole setup where you can practice with your bike. Here, Josh will demonstrate. But see, it's a complex process, and this really can take the pressure off of someone because it gives them a chance to practice, and there's like a illustrated guide explaining everything.
Soon our bus arrives. The 601 will take us the rest of the way to the border with Point Roberts. We load our bikes and climb aboard, sitting of course on the upper deck. Tearing down the highway, we cruise under the Fraser River's South Fork. Then we exit to service a local transit center and glimpse another double-decker bus.
So according to my map, we just crossed across Lulu Island. I tend to spend more time on Delulu Island.
For the rest of our journey, we roll through pleasant Metro Vancouver suburbs and straight up farmland. Yes, we're on a double-decker city bus in the middle of rural-ish British Columbia. And since more people are getting off, we can finally take the Foamer window and check to make sure our bikes are still there, as we cruise ever southward. Eventually, This massive double-decker bus makes a deviation through a quiet suburban neighborhood, feeling really out of place. A few more twists and turns later, and we're off at our stop. The bus curves away to make the journey back to the SkyTrain. We're our own mode of transportation from here. We cross a park, and while I can't film it, we turn down a couple streets until we're at the border crossing into Point Roberts.
And with that, we have made it back to the United States of America. We are now in Point Roberts. As you can see, there's a sign here. It says you can return to Canada, meaning we are not in Canada anymore. The border crossing procedure was incredibly simple. I just pulled up to the officer, showed my passport, and he let me through. And being on a bike, I was just in line with the cars.
Point Roberts, affectionately known as Point Bob, is 4.8 square miles in size, and home to about 1,200 people. As you can see from high up, it's not too far from downtown Vancouver, all things considered.
So if you take a look at the speed limit sign, a couple of interesting things stand out. You have miles per hour and then kilometers per hour right below it. And it says that the entire point is 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted. So we shall see.
Heading south, we pass a gas station where the prices are in liters, as well as the local hardware store, before turning into the parking lot of the International Marketplace, the Exclave's only grocery store. A sign of unity welcomes us, and more signage in the produce section tells us which fruits can and cannot be taken over the border. Some of the prices are a little above the US national average, though not by much. Apparently, everything here is trucked over the border from the US, through Canada. There's also a seating area, where we enjoy one of my favorite food groups, reasonably adequate grocery store prepared food. And this food comes with some local insight. The workers who prepared it are dual citizens, who live in Canada and work here in the United States, allowing them to access a stronger currency and an arguably stronger healthcare system. The only downside is they have to pay 2 income taxes. I asked them if a lot of geography nerds visit the peninsula, but they tell me a lot of their guests are lost Canadians.
So we got some driftwood down here, we got some cool cliffs over here, and then looking out across the islands, you got some of the islands belonging to both Washington State and Canada. Straight ahead is Orcas Island, where I visited on a number of summers with my family. First time seeing it since I was 11, so bit of nostalgia there.
Rounding a bend past the Point Roberts Air Park, which features a grass runway, we pass a closed restaurant and reach the western shore of the peninsula. From here we can see Canadian shipping facilities and the ferry running between mainland Canada and Vancouver Island.
It feels so weird being here. Like, you can tell that, like, there's infrastructure. There's supposed to be people here. We've seen maybe a dozen people tops. So it's kind of crazy having effectively this whole island to ourselves.
It's funny you should say island, because I was literally just thinking, like, this feels like an island. And then I'm like, no, it's a peninsula, but it's made to be like an island because of an artificial border.
Now we head inland, passing an RV park and a bit more traffic.
So here we see the community center, and there's a little garden behind it, and then the library, which says it's open even though it is not.
There's also the Raven, a community shuttle that runs from here to the rest of Washington State.
There is a Mexican food truck on Point Roberts. Do you hear that? That's the sound of Calcudon booking the next ticket to Point Roberts.
There's also multiple shipping and package facilities here, since Vancouverites can order packages to Point Roberts without paying international fees. It's here I'd like to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters, who help make adventures like this one possible. You can join at any time at patreon.com/classywhale for early access to videos and the occasional bonus content. We stop at one of the peninsula's only churches, then turn north, plunging into the evergreens until we emerge by the Exclave's fire station. A smaller road takes us past a derelict skate park to the Point Roberts Elementary School, which serves about 15 students in kindergarten through 3rd grade, with a single teacher. After that, students must travel through Canada to attend school in Blaine, Washington, meaning they cross an international border 4 times every day. Needless to say, virtually everyone here has a Nexus card. Point Roberts has historically benefited from friendly relations between the US and Canada, but recent events have challenged this. During COVID, the US-Canada border was closed, leading to Washington State running a temporary ferry for residents so they could leave the peninsula. COVID case numbers remained low in the exclave, and it was one of the best places to avoid the disease throughout 2020. More recently, certain rhetoric and legislation about Canada coming from a certain high office has reportedly led to a 30% drop in Canadian visitors to Point Roberts, leading to further economic hardship for the region. Soon we find ourselves in a residential area at the northeast of the exclave.
And here we have reached the US-Canada border. As you can see, there's a fence. On the other side of the fence where those houses are is Canada. Here is the border boundary marker. As you can see, Canada US. Literally one little fence.
People's backyards, their view is the US. Like those houses there, they look on the US. That is insane.
Biking past more Canadian houses on the left and US houses on the right, we reach the beach at the very northeast corner of the exclave.
So, that house is in Canada. Here's the border wall. It goes right up to the water.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to sneak into Canada, there is a giant gap in the wall, and obviously we're not going to go through it. It says, Canada, do not enter, and we obey the rules. And look, you can see the skylines of Metro Vancouver from the US. I'm not sure what this is, but let me know in the comments.
That's the maritime border. So if you're on a ship, you know this is the border point here.
Oh, there's another one in the middle of the water.
Yeah, because I think it must be, it demarcates the line.
There's the beach. There's some of the houses. Up there's where we came down from earlier. It's so quiet.
Riding back, we realize these Canadian backyards have gates that open into the US. What's up with that?
There's another boundary stone here made of metal. So we're biking through Point Roberts. On the other side of this ride, sushi, the SkyTrain video I'm about to film, and a cozy red-eye back to JFK. In between here and there is one last hill. Hey, buddy! Hello! Hey!
Hi!
What's going on, Alice?
Hi!
All right, we have made it to the border. See you in Canada.
As soon as we cross the Canadian border, the scenery is suburban again. While the US side is more lush and rural, cross into Canada and instantly there are stop signs, wide roads, more buildings, and convenience stores to fight my low blood sugar.
And we are back on the double-decker bus, and I can barely stand up.
Well,
We
of
are-
course you are. You're sitting.